yeah, it's Gina. And you're like, Gina? And then she's like, da-da-da-da-da, how you going? How's the day going? Does your partner know that you're trying to solve this problem? Oh, that's a long time.
I didn't think about it at all. I can't afford it.
Don't let the ego get so big that you think you've got nothing to learn.
So I wanted him to feel like he won, and I knew that I'd get over the line.
Which is completely right? Like, the fact he was gonna let $1,500 get in the way. I did it this morning, bro. Show of hands, who watched any game tape footage, or listened to any of their sales calls last week? Yeah, so 4 people on the team, that's something that you got to be doing, right? Specifically, like, you know, when we're talking about like the 3 different levers, the 3 different areas that you guys are going to look at and control is going to be your activity first. It's going to be, you know, your attitude on those phone calls, and it's your approach. If you're not listening to game tape footage, if you're not looking at what are those offers that you made, what went well, what didn't go well, like for instance, with your call, your 7:30, you know, your activity is where it needs to be, right? Your attitude is where it needs to be, and your approach is clearly where it needs to be because you're leading the pack this year, right? Yet Costin's still listening to calls. And I guess that call, like the feedback that I gave to you was just like, go back and listen to the end of that phone call again, because you just became very repetitive of your thing, right? But that's something that you kept on saying, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean, right? You said it like 100 times on the call. And like, he still got the job done. He still got the close. He still was able to help that person. And now that guy's in the Facebook group. But it's critically looking at, like, I was watching the UFC this weekend. It's like the very first thing that these guys do after they get into the fight is to go and watch the fight. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, you have to be watching that game tape footage if you want to get your approach better, right? That's going to change your attitude. If you're listening to yourself and you're looking at yourself critically, that's just going to change how you look at what it is that you're controlling. Right, so they're the 3 things that you always need to look at. I listened to absolutely every single person on the sales team's calls last week, and the biggest thing that I picked up that is present across everybody's phone calls is their attentiveness and how close that they are dialed in and listen to them, right? So I know that when you're making hundreds of phone calls a month, it's very easy to just slip into a rhythm, but the amount, like everybody bar none, were misinterpreted questions from the prospects from not being completely dialed in. And it's only a very small little nuance, but if someone has to clarify what it is that they mean or what it is that they're saying multiple times through the call, you lose rhythm, right? It's like one of the reasons why having a conversation face-to-face to someone is a lot more, like it's a lot more effective than talking to them in Zoom. Because even if there's a 1 second lag, it you off your game, right? And it's the same thing on a sales call. It's like, oh no, this is not what I meant. Oh no, this is what I was saying. And it's like that you just lose rhythm. So like the more dialed in and present that you can be and not have multiple tabs open on the call, like the better the outcome is going to be because they really feel like you're hearing what they're saying, right? And then the other thing that definitely came up a lot is just like everybody's selling, like specifically on QG, is like selling the plane trip and not selling the destination, right? And it's like talking about the semantics of how many hours, how many modules, what the sales funnel is, or we want to use WordPress, da-da-da-da-da, and just getting into the mechanics of like telling them, okay, you're going to need to, you know, spend an hour a day or spend 2 hours a day. Yeah, like that's all fine, right? And that's all well and true going over that for a certain amount of time. But the big thing where you just want to stay on is like, this is the destination of where you guys have been trying to be. Right? Because if they're saying like, oh, I don't have the time, for instance, I don't have the time to do this. Okay, well, you mentioned to me at the start of the call that you've been trying to solve this problem for 2 years. So you don't have anything but time because you spent 2 years trying to solve this problem. Right? And not trying to like downplay the fact that they're going to need to spend time and invest it in the program to get to the outcome. Right? Because we're talking about, oh, look, you can do it in 6 weeks. We have people that come in, but usually it's 6 months. Or maybe you just go on a tear and you watch 6 modules a day. Right? That's focusing on, hey, you're going to need to go to check into the plane. You're going to have to pass security. Then there's going to be luggage. There's going to be all these other additional things. That's not what they want, right? They just want to get to the destination of what it is. So it's like if you're selling a fitness program, you know, like, yeah, like you're not going to get to eat any of the foods that you like. You're going to have to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. You're going to sacrifice it. You're going to be socially awkward when you go out with your friends because you're not going to be able to eat what they're eating. Like you're going to have to sacrifice all of these things that you like doing, right? What else have you tried? Why is now the time really to do it? Like, do you want to get into the best shape of your life? Do you want to go into those old clothes? Right? You're not going to be talking about what lifts they're doing or intermittent fasting or how many calories that they're going to be eating on that. That's getting into the weeds of the phone call. So it's like no matter where that phone call goes, this person has a pressing problem that they're looking to solve. Right? Whether they spend 2 hours a day on QG or it's 2 hours a week, it doesn't matter. The thing that matters is the destination of where they're trying to get. And so the things that we all can be doing better as a team is that like when you're collecting the information off them, right? So like the quality of the questions that you ask determine the quality of the information that you get on the sales call. And the quality of the information that you have is directly correlated with how you're going to be able to close that person into the outcome that's going to be beneficial to them, right? And so when you're asking these questions and you're like, okay, cool, like what revenue are you at right now? Right? How many leads are you guys getting per month right now? When you get that information and they're like, oh, we get a bit organic. I get a few through Instagram and a couple through my website, but nothing crazy. Do not move on beyond that. You haven't clarified the problem. Right? It's very easy to be like, oh, I just want to get into the next part of the script. I want to ask them this part. No. Like I don't even have clarity around what the problem is. Okay, so exactly how many leads did you get last month? I don't know. Okay, was it more or less than 5? Oh, it was less. Should we say 4 or is it 3? Oh, like it was probably 4. I think I got 2 from my Instagram bio and there was like 1 or 2 came through a website. All right, awesome. What did that look like the month before? Was it more or less than that? Oh, it was probably the same. And the month before that, it was the same. All right, so you're just getting 4 leads a month. How long has that been going on for? Oh, it's been going on for about 6 months, okay? And you mentioned in your application that you guys want to be at 20 leads per month. Yeah? Excellent. So what are you currently doing to go from 4 leads per month to 20 leads per month right now? Oh, we're not doing anything. What have you done to get there? No, I haven't done anything. Oh, actually, I did try like a bit of like messaging people in Facebook groups and sliding into the DMs. Tell me a little bit more about that, right? Like really tying down and getting that information so you're getting all the raw materials that you need on the call, right? And you might be thinking, oh, that's kind of, frivolous. Like, why do I need to get that information? Why can't I just be like, they're not satisfied with where they are and we know where they want to get to? Because it's not specific enough. It's not going to add any depth. You want to dimensionalize the problem that they're having. Right? The problem is that they don't have enough leads coming in. Awesome. If you can say to them, okay, well, you've been getting 4 leads per month for the last 6 months. You're not currently doing anything to change that situation, but you do want to get at 20 leads. And you've tried this in the past and you don't feel comfortable relying on that to get to where you are. Right? So why is now a really good opportunity? Why is now the right time for you to invest in solving that problem? So then when they tell you that they need to think about it for another 4 weeks, well, they've already been thinking about it for 6 months because they've been getting 4 leads a month for 6 months, right? And it just allows you, when you get into the close, you have way more conviction about it because the conviction is the thing that you need, right? Like the difference between knowing and believing is certainty. And the only way that you're going to get certainty is by getting the quality information that you need. And you get that quality information by asking them really high quality questions, right? So when you come to the close and they're telling you all of the problems, you're able to take leadership on the call, right? And help them, coach them through that decision because you have all the information. You can't coach someone through a decision if you don't have all the information because you don't have certainty, because that's the difference between knowing and believing, right? So it's like you need to get all of those raw materials on the call so when it does come down to the close, like one thing that we could have done better on that call with that dude, he started talking about like, oh, I'm looking at this other program, I'm looking at this, you know who that guy is, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? We didn't really have enough raw materials in the call to really have a compelling reason to close hard, right? He spoke about he really likes to change people's lives and he wants to change his marketing manager's life by investing in QG. We didn't really unpack that a lot, right? Because basically this guy was telling us that he's not going to go ahead with QG for the sake of $1,500. So he was completely sold on dollars, but he's not sold on paying the extra dollars per month over 3 months, which is completely right? Like the fact he was going to let $1,500 get in the way of him joining the program. And we called him up on that, right? But if we had more raw materials in that, we could really start to reduce that down and make it look ridiculous, right? And so you need to get that quality information on the call, and it's a combination of like being really attentive, because you guys all know, if you're going to go for the close, that call's going to go for longer, right? It's going to go for longer than 30 minutes, and the more back and forth and clarification on what they're saying, that just adds more time to the call. If you can really listen to what they're saying, and then got it, okay, cool. And then what about this? Got it. And what about this? And really understand everything that they're saying in that call, it's going to, not only is it going to cut it down, it's going to allow you to spend more time getting the information that it is that you need. And once you get the information that it is that you need, you have to tie down and pin down. We're not doing that no way near enough. No one here is doing that enough. Is like when you get the information that you need to tie that down and get them to acknowledge that's actually a problem. Like if someone's like, yeah, like it's going all right, like getting 4 leads a month. Awesome. Like how are you ever going to get to 10 clients per month if you're only getting 4 leads? Right? And getting them to agree that that's a big problem, getting them to agree that they don't feel confident doing what they need to do to get to 10 before you move on to the next part of the call. Awesome. Do you think so? Your goal right now is to get to 120 grand per month. If you keep on getting 4 leads per month for the next 6 months, do you think that you're going to hit that 120? No. Why? Because I'm not making enough offers. Awesome. Well, what are you doing to fix that? I'm not doing anything. Okay, got it. So you're not currently doing anything to solve that problem. Excellent. Tie down. Move on to the next part of the call. So they can't tell you later on in the call that they're doing shopper docket marketing or they've got door knockers out there. You've already told me you're not doing anything. I tied it down, right? And then all of those different things. Like, okay, cool. Why is now the right time to solve this problem? And then they'll tell you all the reasons why it is. Does your partner know that you're trying to solve this problem? Yeah, they do. What do they think about that? Are they supportive? Yeah, they are really supportive. They love me and they support everything. They know what I'm trying to fix. Awesome. So then you've got that as a tie down at the end of the call when they say that they need to speak to their partner. We've already spoken, your partner is really, they're aware that you have this problem and they're supportive of you solving it. So with your yes, is there any reason that they wouldn't support you in making a decision when we've already said that they're supportive? No, right? And then, yes, and then we can find out what the real thing is. But it's like making sure that you're using that information, you're doing a proper thorough discovery, and that you're bringing the energy to those calls, right? The other thing is just like that first opening 1 minute of the call is just make sure that like you've got a structured approach to that. You're not just like, oh, hey, I can see you're in this area and you're not following that thing, because that's the other thing that sometimes you're calling someone, they're in a car, they can't really hear you, they don't really know what's going on. I listened to a few of yours, Tim, that were that situation. They didn't even remember what they booked the phone call in. It's like, yeah, it's Gina. And you're like, Gina? And then she's like, doesn't really even know what the call's about, right? So just not forgetting just those fundamentals. Like, hey, it's Sabri here, calling up from King Kong. You scheduled in this strategy session about how to help you guys get more customers, da-da-da-da-da. How you going? How's the day going? And just taking a little bit more control early on in the call, right? Because all of that, they're judging you from the moment that they pick up that phone call. If they're looking at you, they're also judging at you on those Zoom calls. And it's like all of those little details are handled in the tonality, and all those things that break rapport is people having to repeat themselves in those calls. But if you've made an offer and it's closed, like that one, there's still things to learn from that. If you've made an offer and you haven't closed, like the few people we went around, you made 2 offers, you made 2 offers, the rest of the group we went around, it's like if you're not dissecting where that kind of came unraveled and what that is, then you're just going to continue to make that mistake and practice on hot prospects moving forward. Right? Don't let the ego get so big that you think you've got nothing to learn. Everyone's always got something to learn, and it's just about having the right approach and belief in it. That it's like, hey, like I'm going to critically analyze where I've got, where I could have got done, and then you're going to roll that into this week because you're going to have lots of calls this week that are going to hit you with the same thing. They're just scared to go ahead, that they're scared to make a decision on it, right? So they're all the things that you really need to be thinking about, and not just getting the information. And when you get the information off them, when they tell you they're at 4 leads, don't have any emotion to that. So just the 4. Is that the 4 for the week or is that 4 for the month? That's 4 for the month. Okay, got it. Not, oh, okay, oh really, 4. Okay. No, that's not what you do, right? Just get the information and just coach them through it, and you're just collecting all of that information through. Because it sounds really small, but all these subtle things really matters. If people feel like you're judging them off the answers that you're giving them, they're not going to give you all of the information because they feel like they're being judged. Right? Okay, awesome. So you're at, how long have you been thinking about that? 6 months. Oh, that's a long time. Like, what have you been doing for 6 months? Like, no, like 6 months. Okay, got it. No problems. I'm with you, right? You're just collecting. Once you move through the discovery and you get all the information that you want and you're starting to articulate the problem, like you still want to deliver it in a way that doesn't have like a huge amount of emotion attached to it. You want to still, it's that fine line of not being robotic, but also not feeling like you're judging off them. You want them to arrive that this is a problem that they need to solve. You don't want to tell them that this is a big problem that they need to solve. When you articulate the problem and you recap it to them, it should just be an absolute no-brainer, like, yeah, this is a real big problem and I need to solve this. It shouldn't be like, do you see how this is a massive problem that you need to solve right now? You might get a yes there because it's hard for them to agree no, but you're not going to have the conviction because you're pulling, you're not pushing. Right? You're pulling them into the close at the end of the phone call. Where if you're pushing your agenda, then if you have somebody just arrive at like, how much more powerful is it when someone just tells you like, yeah, like everything that you're saying is right. Like, I think I need to sort this out. Like, awesome. Do you have any more questions? I just need to know the price. That's a lot better than you trying to convince them that this is the right decision to make it. Right? And the biggest enemy on a sales cycle is the prospect's fear. That is the number one thing, right? Because we're selling a program with an ROI attached to it. We're not selling a program like a fitness program or something else like that where they can't justify the investment by making a return on it. And it's like if they believe everything that you're saying throughout this sales cycle, but they still don't buy, is because they don't have belief, right? And they're scared to make a decision. But they're never ever going to tell you that they're scared to make a decision on this phone call, right? But their actions, them saying that they need to speak to their partner, is really a stall, right? And the reason that they're stalling is because they're scared. They don't have enough conviction and certainty that what you're saying is actually true. So it's like, that is the enemy, is their fear. And if you don't if you're not asking someone at the end of the call, like if you feel like, you know those calls where everything is kind of, you might have been derailed along it, but you've ultimately entered the promised land. You've gotten to the part where you make the offer and everything kind of makes sense, but the prospect still doesn't go ahead, right? And it's simply because they are fearful of it. And then in that situation, you need to play devil's advocate. And you just say like, look, I know that it's a big decision. I know that you're scared about making this, right? I know that $12,000 might seem like a lot of money for you right now, right? But what is it that you're scared of? What are you scared that could possibly go wrong? Or that it doesn't work. Awesome. That what doesn't work? Is it that you don't get the leads, or is it that you just don't think that you have the ability to close those leads, or they wouldn't be the right type of leads? Like, what specifically is it that you're scared about? How can I help you make an informed decision about this? Well, I just need to think about it. Awesome. I understand that you need to think about it, and I completely encourage that, right? However, like, time doesn't make decisions. Information does. and I'm the source of information. So what other questions do you have that you haven't really told me? And how can we kind of speak about those? Right? So what is you're really fearful of investing in this program? Because we've already identified that this is a problem that's persistent and you're dedicated. You said you're a 10 out of 10 in solving this. Before we spoke about price, you said you're 100%, we're ready to go right now. And then I told you about the price and something's changed along the line. So you can just level with me and just be real. What are you thinking about? Right? And try to understand what it is that is people that are fearful. Like, what do you guys think that people are fearful about that when you get a no? Like, for instance, your one, what was that 20-minute like monologue that they went off on?
That one specifically?
Or just in general, what do you think that people are fearful?
It's not going to work. I'm going to spend this money.
Yeah.
And yeah, just I can't afford to lose this money.
Okay.
That's the main. I think it all boils down to that.
And what do you guys get? What does everyone else feel?
I get that it's not going to work, but this is happening everywhere. There's lots of these programs. I don't know if it's going to work. Your marketing's great, but it's just another program. And
Yeah, so it's not going to work. That's the two that we got. Anything else?
I interpret all my objections differently. Like everything I feel comes down to trust. And I think that you kind of drilled that into me early on.
Yeah.
So every other objection I just boiled down to that. Because if they knew that there was a button that they could press 12 grand and get 100 grand out straight away,
yeah,
they would just sit there all day doing it. So the real objection is always that they don't trust you to some extent.
Yeah. And that really boils down to that they don't believe you.
Yeah.
Because if they believed you, they would trust you.
Yeah.
So why don't they believe you?
Well, then everything's a subsection of that. So like what they might be saying is that there's a lot of skepticism in the industry.
Yeah.
They might not be able to tell the wheat from the chaff. It's our job to help them distinguish that. So sometimes there's a bit of mistrust along the way. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like getting those tie downs and getting those commitments in throughout that phone call is like really, really integral, because once you get to the phone call, in their mind, they're just checking off like, I don't really believe that. That's bullshit. Like, I don't really believe that. And unless you've tied that down and undress it, then you get to the call and there's been 2 or 3 things throughout that sales cycle that they don't believe, but they forget what they don't believe. Right? So it's like you're buttoning down at every section of the call. So then there's so much belief by the time that you get to the end that it's congruent because you've answered those things. So if you get an answer that you don't feel satisfied with, that's where you don't move on until you are satisfied with that. Right? Like, do you think that there are ways to get more than 4 leads per month? Yeah, I do. Like, do you know other people that are doing it? Yeah, I do. Awesome. So, like, you do believe that it's possible to get to the 20 leads that you want per month? Yeah, I do. Awesome. Why do you feel like you're getting 20 leads per month? Because we're just not doing any marketing. Okay, got it. No problems. They've already addressed it, that they're not doing any marketing, so that's why they're not getting the 20 leads, right? But you want to isolate and get belief at every single part of that call, so that when you get into the end of the phone call, you're only helping them, coach them through the decision of them just being scared about making the decision, but there's not these 1, 2, 3 big dominoes that you're unable to knock down. Is it time? Do you guys get time as an objection? Much? I don't have the time to invest in QG and go through the program?
Sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
But not once you've dropped price. I get it before
So once there's time, it means they've got too much money. So they'd probably be a benefit for our agency.
Yep.
I feel like that, if somebody's going to say that,
It's either that or they don't want to take make the effort.
because that comes to risk versus time. Yeah.
Yep.
It comes back to the same point.
And then so the other thing that like you've got to understand that when you get into the close, you have to, in your head, take a reading of where you are, right? In terms of the objection. Is it a price? Is it a stall, right? Or is it like that they just don't see the value in the program? Where are you at? So then you know which way to kind of unpack, right? And it's not going to be like 1 or 2 little magical sentences that you're going to be able to whisper into that prospect's ear that's going to allow them to do that. It's going to be through a series of questions that you ask them. right? That's how you're going to get to the bottom of what the situation is. But it's all of those little things, like being super attentive and having energy on the call and being present and not letting the last session that you did or the no-show before this or the email that you just received of somebody saying that they're not going to go ahead for a big agency deal. You can't allow that to roll on into the call. You have to reset your physiology, walk away, do some push-ups, do some star jumps, get dialed back in. And don't just think, I'm just going to go through the motions with this person. Don't judge them based on their survey answers. Really go through and give that person the benefit of the doubt and try to make them not repeat themselves. Right? And you will have more time on the call. You'll be able to crystallize what that preferred is. And then the big thing is that, you know, when we're looking at like these meetings, we spend 90% of these meetings talking about attitude and approach. Right? The things that we can't focus on in these meetings, and I don't want to make it a big song and dance about, is the activity portion, right? But when we sit here and we look at all of these things and we talk about this is what we need to change, in between now and next week, you're the guys that you need to answer to yourself about, are you making the most of all the activity that you've got? We've already outlined all of these people that have booked in strategy calls and haven't done. We need to get through those, right? But make sure that you're at bare minimum listening to one person, like to one of your sales calls per week, right? It's no surprise that like a lot of the seniors have started firing up and doing lots more QG deals now that we've been training all the newbies on their QG pitches. Right? We did a bunch more QGs last month than we have done in the months before that. And it's because you're listening to phone calls, you're critiquing people's pitches, you're seeing where they went wrong, and then you're naturally taking that into your calls and then you're doing the right thing. That's level one. Level two is critiquing your own pitches and seeing what you're doing on a sales cycle, making notes and then thinking, I'm going to change that. I'm going to rectify that next week. Because if you can get 2 to 5% improvement every week on what you're doing in the close, then it's going to add up substantially. And that's where you seasoned guys are making a lot of offers that still aren't closing, right? So everything else checks out because you've made them an offer and then we haven't closed, and we need to make sure that you're looking at that game tape footage and seeing where things went wrong on that sales cycle. Let's go out there, push and make it happen and show these new guys what is possible.
Let's go.
Let's go, team.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying these videos, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell button as we're dropping a video like this every other day on YouTube. And if you've got any questions, just leave a comment below with hashtag HeySabri and I will do my best to get to it.